breaking ball, hit well, deep to center, roller going back, near the wall, this baby's gonna go! Troy Johnston has a 3-run bomb!
This is the Turn 2 podcast with Scott Kornberg and Troy Johnston.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Turn 2 podcast. We are super excited that you're joining us, whatever platform it is, wherever you get your podcast, or on YouTube, where you could also see how great Troy Johnston looks, how not so good I look. But I'm Scott Kornberg. We've got Troy Johnston, Miami Marlins minor league first baseman, joining us. And we're going to host this show. We've got some really cool ideas for you. We've got some awesome guests already lined up with some more in the pipeline as we continue on. But, for episode 1, Troy, I just want to say before we get going and talking about baseball, which is 2 big passions of ours, I just want to say how appreciative, I am, and I'm sure you feel the same way, of all you people who are tuning in and listening to us and giving us a shot. I mean, I think, I get paid to talk about baseball and watch baseball games and watch how great of a player you are. You get paid to watch baseball, but we thought this would be such a cool inside look at the game. And for people to give us their time and listen, I'm so excited. So thank you. Right at the top, that's my first thought, is thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, and I want to piggyback on that. Thank you so much. And we want to keep it as exciting as possible. There's so many other podcasts and different things about baseball, but we want to give you an in-depth look with such a broad spectrum. We do not have a definitive direction other than baseball itself. We want to cover every single basis of baseball, whether it be big league, minor league, front office, mental coach, strength coach, former players, broadcasters, radio hosts, color. We want to do everything. And because we think that every person involved in the baseball world is just as important as the top big leaguer, the top minor leaguer, because realistically, without those kind of people, the game is not baseball itself. It involves everybody. And if we can get everybody's story, we have a huge outlook on what baseball really is in today's game.
Yeah, we want it to be something where you get an inside look at the game. And that's something that you don't realize how many people go into this until you get into it. I'm sure you feel the same way, even as a player, like, wow, I didn't know this coach or this broadcaster or this position in the front office existed. I certainly feel that way, still even learning that to this day. So I want to tell you a little bit about Troy Johnston, though, before we get going, because when I said minor leaguer, I don't think that does it justice, Troy. You were the Miami Marlins minor league player of the year in 2023, which is really cool, and something we're going to talk about in a second. But you're also a substitute teacher in the Puyallup School District right now as we get ready for the 2024 season. You're a youth baseball instructor. You've been a custom closet salesman, an Orange Theory fitness employee. You've been married to your high school sweetheart, Haley, who is really sweet, for 3 years. You guys have a Boston Terrier, French Bulldog together. But baseball is a lot of your life. And I think that's what makes you so great to do this with, is that you started at 2 years old. Here you are at 26 playing first base, outfield, even though you're a lefty, you had a little stint as a catcher. I just think it's super cool. And I think minor leaguer doesn't do that justice. So I just wanted to get that out there. You are the Miami Marlins reigning player of the year, and you are a non-roster invitee for spring training. So we'll get some inside glimpses of that, I'm sure, in the next few weeks as well.
Well, I hope so, but as much as I love doing a lot of different things, just like how we're doing in the show. We're not specifying on one specific, just minor leagues, just sports team. We're doing everything. That's my whole MO. I love trying everything, trying whatever I can do, And realistically, I think that makes me a more well-rounded person. Not only does that affect kind of how I am as a person, but it affects how many great people I get surrounded by all the time, right? I get to meet great people like you. I get to meet great people in the front office, different players, different people, different substitute teachers. I have a teacher friend group that I work with. Like, it's all this different stuff. And so I think it's so important that being well-rounded, just like I said, trying everything is so, so important. Just like Scott here. he has done so many different things, but his main thing that he has fallen in love with is being a broadcaster. One, being a lead broadcaster for the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. Shout out to the Shrimp.
With shrimp.
They are the AAA affiliate of the Miami Marlins. For those of you that do not know the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, they've got some awesome gear, awesome logo. But Scott himself, he has been a broadcaster for Jacksonville University, done lots of different sports above baseball, above and beyond basketball, volleyball, soccer, and even has done some Miami Marlins spring training games. We are really excited. I am hoping you get invited. Have you heard anything about that yet?
I am. I will be there mid-March, so I'm really
Oh,
excited about
March.
that. Can
Very
you hit a
cool.
home run for me? Is that a common question that you get?
As long as
Man.
it's not Roger Dean and the wind's blowing in, because it is tough to get it out of that stadium.
I think one of the games is on the. I got to look at the schedule again. I'm pretty sure one of the games is at home, and one of them is on the road. So maybe not at Roger Dean, but maybe whoever they're playing on that next day. I got to look at where they're playing. But I'm really grateful. Thank you, Marlins. That's going to be awesome.
That is going to be awesome. But again, I can't say enough good things about you. I want to finish off your little snippet with one of your favorite quotes. And as a big Harry Potter fan that Scott is, of course, we talk about Harry Potter all the time. You'll hear it quite a bit on this podcast. From Albus Dumbledore, who's once wisely said, "Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light." Goosebumps everywhere, right? My neck, my face, everything. That is just so powerful. Everything that you've put into it, like being a broadcaster and being the light of everything that's going on, right?
Nice.
People are listening to you all the time, and you have to find the bright spots wherever it is, right? Even if the team's down 12-0 in the second inning, you still got to find the bright spots, talk about the players, whether the other teams, you talk about the other team doing stuff like that. You know, it's a lot more fun when the Shrimp are winning, but you still got to find those bright spots if you remember to turn on the light.
It's a great job. And one of the first things that you find out about why it's a great job is when you get to meet awesome people like yourself. And one of the first things I learned about you, in addition to you're very good at Mario Kart, is your favorite all-time. You're a big quote guy, and your favorite all-time quote, and I love this: "Make the big time where you're at." It's kind of like a be where your feet are at kind of thing, which I think we all need a reminder of. But it comes from Frosty Westring, Pacific Lutheran University Hall of Fame football coach. So not baseball related, but again, I just one of those really great reminders that okay, it's minor league baseball, right? Like there's great things about minor league baseball. There's not so great things about minor league baseball, just like everything in life. And you could just say, okay, it's Tuesday in, I don't want to throw out a city to say bad things about it, but in X city where we both know those places where they don't draw necessarily all that well, and it's a light crowd, and I mean, you could say, man, this really stinks, or you could be like, man, I'm playing minor league, I'm playing professional baseball, and I think you do that no matter where we're at, no matter what level you've been at. Even though I've only known you here at AAA, I'm assuming that you were like that at Gonzaga, you were like that in high school, that you make everything you're where your feet are at, and you make the big time wherever you're at, which I think is a great quality to have.
You know what's one of the key things to going to those places and finding those things? You know, you have to try and find a good restaurant, a good coffee shop, something small like that to just keep you going. So every morning when you got that downtime, you go to that restaurant, you go to that coffee shop. That's what makes those places good. That's what keeps me so happy. You know, I run purely on coffee beans and caffeine. So I'm always amped, ready to go.
That I knew because we've recorded some of the interviews in advance, and you're on the West Coast, and it's 7 a.m. your time. So I want to talk about something right now. When I introduce you as a baseball player, you are coming to us from school right now. This is your off period, and a lot of people think, okay, professional baseball player, all you do is train, right? You're just training in the off season, getting ready for the 2024 season in which you're trying to make that last leap to the major leagues. You are not doing that. I mean, you are doing that, but you're not, right? Your day-to-day job is a teacher. I mean, how does that work that you're not necessarily putting all your time and effort into training to get that last jump to be a major league baseball player, your dream?
So a lot of the thing is like, again, be where your feet at. Right now in the off season, since a lot of people don't know this, But minor leaguers, a lot of us are not millionaires. We do not have a lot of surplus of money that we sign for a lot. Like a lot of us, like me, we have to work in the off season if we want these nice things. We want to be, keep our head above water. We want to have a house someday. We want to do different stuff like this. I like to work. I like to keep busy. And the thing is, we play baseball for 9 months out of the year. I mentally and physically, I need a break, right? Some guys can keep going and they love it. They just keep going, keep going, keep going. But for me, I grew up being a multi-sport athlete. I played baseball for a little bit, but I kind of trained in the off season, kind of whatever. And then I played a different sport. And then I did something else. And then I went back to baseball. And I realized that that makes me a better baseball player because it gives me the time to actually miss baseball and want to be back and want to be there. If I'm doing baseball all the time, I never have time to miss it. I never have time to like realize, take a step back and be like, hey, how can I get better this next year? How can I do this? What do I have to train this off season? What do I have to change? What do I have to do? I can take a step back and really realize all of these different things. And one of the things that I do, like we said, I'm an instructor at one of the facilities here in town. And it's amazing when you're teaching somebody else how to hit, how you figure your own things out about your own swing, about your own game, about different things like that. Because all of a sudden, just like they say, if you can teach it, you can do it, right? And so doing all these different things and putting myself in different situations, I think overall makes me a better baseball player, even though I may not be training as hard as some people on Instagram might say they're training, or some people on Twitter. I'm doing it in the dark when nobody's seen. I'm at the YMCA. I'm at the facility, hitting, taking ground balls, doing stuff by myself because I want to be a fully well-rounded person as well as well-rounded baseball player. Because when you get to my level, everybody's athletic, everybody's big. You walk into a professional locker room and you are like, yes, these look like athletes. They pass the eye test, but a lot of them don't pass this test. And that's where I want to be the best baseball players. Up here, I want to have the competitive edge. And I think that's where, when I take some time off and really think about stuff, that's where I get sharper. It's easy to get lost in the grind of 150, 162 games, whatever it is. It's easy to get lost in the grind and just every day is whatever. Every day we just keep going, keep going. But when you take a step back and realize, hey, this is where I need to get better. This is where I need to improve. That's where you actually become sharper. You become better.
So you said something really interesting. I didn't even expect it. That you're actively take a step away, pretty much. So, of these 3 months in which you're not technically in season, you're not in spring training, how long are you not even touching a bat or a ball? Like, what do you pick it up before spring training at all, or are you just going to spring training cold?
I have been going the last couple of years. I have been going into spring training almost cold, where I maybe see one or two live at bats. I maybe do, and so that may have been a start to why I kind of have a slow spring training. I'm not a hot starter. There's a lot of guys that come into spring training, and it's like, wow, this guy could be a big leaguer tomorrow, and then June rolls around and they're hitting 200, and they're like, I don't know what's going on, but they burnt themselves out in the off season working so hard that they don't have the stamina to get through the season. And me, I'm trying to be a little bit better this year. I ended up playing winter ball for a little bit, so I had to train a little bit for that. But I try not to touch a baseball bat or a baseball until about Christmas, like right before Christmas. That's my big thing. So take 2 months off, just work out, lift, try to get as strong and as flexible as possible, and then figure out how your body works again. Then figure out how to hit. But this year, it's been a little sporadic, a little spread out. But I'm actually going down to Jupiter a little bit early because up here in Washington, we don't have the luxury of hitting outside. It's cold, it's wet, it's rainy. And so I'm going to go down there, actually get my feet wet and, hit outside, take ground balls outside, do stuff like that and train with big leaguers versus just training by myself and then hopping right into it. So I think that would be, like you said, I usually start around Christmas, but this year's been a little bit different.
And winter ball is a little different too. I know that the plans were a little wonky for you with that, but you hadn't played winter ball, I don't think, in the past. That is such a cool experience for those who don't know. Like, there's baseball happening in Latin American countries where they use sometimes major league players. Like Albert Pujols played winter ball last year. A lot of the times it's minor league players or guys who are trying to make a comeback, maybe, but the atmosphere there is out of this world. And one thing I've learned about winter ball is the pressure is so different than minor league baseball. 150 games in minor league baseball. You're going to go through your great times. You're going to go through your not great times. And for the most part, if where your backing is, where the line is, that if you're going through a slump, that okay, it's just a slump. But in winter ball, there's way fewer games, and the pressure is to win. And so if you're in a slump, they're just going to get rid of you. Is my impression of it.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. Well, and there's, like I said, you want to talk about big leaguers being down there. Like we played against, you know, Tatis and Cano and all these other guys. They come down and they have fun. It is a fun atmosphere. But again, the pressure is on because you are there to win games. It is not a minor league season where you're just hoping to get moved up. You are there to win the championship. Every day is life or death, win or lose. It is not. There's no stats. There's nothing. It's, did you win the game? Did you lose the game? And that's what they care about.
Do the fans interact with you? I mean, is that something you get interaction with? Because presumably they speak Spanish. Like, do you feel that pressure from them, or is it more from the coaching staff and the front office of those teams?
More from the fans. The fans in the front office are kind of the ones that really hammer down on this kind of stuff. And, of course, being in the Dominican and my first language being English, my Spanish is definitely needing some work. I can communicate. I can have a somewhat conversation, but when you start speaking a little faster, I'm looking at you a little sideways. I'm like, one more time, otra, kind of thing. But the fans they tried their best. They talked to me. There's so many big leaguers down there. They're handing out gear all the time. They love getting gear. They're like, hey, can I get some batting gloves? Can I get a ball? Can I get all this stuff? So it doesn't change. It's the same way in the US. It's the same way there. It's baseball. The cool thing about it, though, is they play music when the home team's at bat. And they're playing like
Really?
drums and trumpets. And oh, yeah, they're doing all this stuff. And it gets crazy. And so I thought that was one of the coolest parts about it, was just the fan interaction.
That is really cool. I didn't know that about the music. I've heard like different things about baseball in Japan and Korea. And we've got some of your former teammates have signed out there this offseason, which is a really great opportunity for them because it's life-changing money, and the baseball is really great quality still. So maybe we'll have to reach out to those guys and see what their experience is like. But yeah, I've just heard amazing things about winter ball. Pressure is huge, so that's really big. And then the other thing that I think this kind of segues perfectly to is, pressure as a baseball player it's something you could feel, and it's something you could feel in particular if you play for the Boston Red Sox. And our first guest that we're going to have on is Ryan Lavarnway, who enjoyed a 10-season major league career, mostly with the Red Sox, but also with Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Oakland, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Baltimore, and Miami, where he crossed with us in Jacksonville. And I'd venture a guess that he has to be for me, he's a memorable player I've had in my life. For you, he's got to be one of the most memorable teammates, I think, because just calling him a player it's not doing it justice in any regard. His background is truly incredible, and I think you probably realized that when you were locker mates next to him.
Yeah, right when I stepped into that AAA clubhouse in 2022, we were locker mates right there. A little bit later, he will deny that I am his favorite locker mate of all time. Deep down, I know that we are soul locker mates. We'll put it that way, soul locker mates. But he's such an interesting person. Not only is he such a great leader in the clubhouse, and as he talks about it, he's talking about how it took him a while to do that, but instantly he is a bright spot wherever he goes, and he is such an awesome human being. Not only has he played for all of those teams, but he's done so much more on the other side of that. He's written his own children's book. He's a keynote speaker. He's got a podcast, and he's got a huge, long resume of philanthropy. Like, he is so much more, like you're talking about, he's so much more than a baseball player. He is a genuine human being.
And I think you're going to really enjoy this conversation. So that is next. He's also a Yale graduate, which we'll get into, which is really neat. And he's currently a Colorado Rockies broadcaster. So he has done so much of baseball, and we're really excited. This is our first conversation. Our guest today is Ryan Lavarnway, who has been telling us about his incredible post-playing career. Made some time for us from Michigan, where it's very dreary post-Detroit Lions loss. Ryan, thanks so much. And we were just talking about Red Sox fantasy camp. You were a coach at Red Sox fantasy camp. Was it weird to be on the other side where you're not like you're a guy that these old guys who are paying a lot of money to go to camp are looking up to and making friends with and drinking beers with, presumably for the entire week? I mean, that's got to be a role reversal thing. That's wow, I'm really retired.
It was definitely weird. I retired after the World Baseball Classic last year, so I guess it's technically been maybe 9 months. But I also played in the European Championships, so I was playing competitive and meaningful baseball as recently as October. So all these campers of varying shapes and sizes, and roundness, we will say, politically correct. They were like, "You look like you could still play," and I was like, "I can." So on the last day of fantasy camp, we do a coaches versus campers game, and they're paying all this money, they're having a blast. It's just a celebration of everybody that shares baseball, spending a week together, and seeing if your body can physically survive the week. But on the last day, we have the former major leaguers play a 3 inning game against all of the campers, and I mean it's a slaughter, right? They love the privilege of being struck out by a guy that retired 10 years ago. But I didn't know that. So on the first day of camp, it rained, and I'm like panicking. I'm like, we're gonna miss the campers versus coaches game, and that's what I'm looking forward to the most because I'll get to play. And then on the day, you realize that like none of these campers' arms are still working after 7 days of playing baseball. They could barely lob it over the plate. But it's just a blast to be around.
What was the final score of that game?
Coaches, if the coaches score 3 runs per inning, you roll the inning.
Okay.
And we ended up playing 6 innings, so it was 18-0.
Whoa. Did not take it easy on them.
So, no, well, some of the coaches are in their 60s and 70s, but so are the players.
So relatively even. That's awesome. So you said that you competed professionally, essentially competitively, this last October. You've been playing since 2008. You have had a awesome, long, generous career. What has been kind of your starstruck moment? Essentially, you played for so many different teams. You played for, like you said, you played in the European Championship. You played for Team Israel. You've played for multiple major league teams, multiple minor league teams. What has been like your defining moment, essentially, in your baseball career that you look back and you're like, I had the time of my life, whether it was for a weekend, a year, a day?
Wow, there's like 7 questions in that one question.
What I do.
That's what you do. So the first question you asked was the first moment I was starstruck. For me, that would be when I met Mark McGwire behind the turtle in spring training when we were playing the Cardinals. And I mean, he's still larger than life. And people tell me that I have big hands when I shake someone's hands. His hands completely enveloped my hands. And I was like, oh my God, you are a giant amongst men. And he was so generous, willing to sit there and chat with me. So I really appreciated that. I also met Mike Piazza in Prague this year at the European Championships. He was one of my favorite players growing up because I was a Dodger fan living in LA, and he was a catcher. I think I caught him at a bad moment. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because I would have loved to just sit there and shoot the shit with him. But he was, was checking into the hotel. They had just lost. So, but I was pretty starstruck by meeting Mike Piazza. You asked what was my career high or career highlight moment.
Yeah, like whether it was a weekend, whether it was a day, like a certain year, whatever it was, like when you look back on your career, like what stands out to you the most? And I understand that a lot of people will say like the people, the play, but give me like just give me one thing that happened, whatever it was, whether it was like a play, a home run, whatever it was it a person, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, so I too immediately jumped to mind. Winning the World Series is tough to beat. That team that we had, in 2013 in Boston, the Boston bombings happened, and the team immediately just knew that we were playing for more than just baseball games. And every time we stepped on the field, the city of Boston had 3 hours where they could breathe again. And the team meant more to that city at that time than anything baseball has ever meant to me. So that was just incredible, and to pull it off, the environment at Fenway Park in the World Series is insane. Insane. So that was like, as a team, as a city, as a community, as something more than the game, that's it, easy. And then on a personal level, you talk about going from a very, very low to a very, very high. In 2019, I was released from AAA, playing for the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders of the Yankees organization. And the next day, I was in the big leagues with the Cincinnati Reds, breaking a franchise record, having the best game of my life. So like very low. I got released after a day game and had a flat tire in the parking lot and couldn't even lick my wounds at my apartment and pack my stuff by myself. And then 24 hours later, had the game of my life, and my father-in-law is responsible for 50% of the YouTube clips on that highlight.
That is awesome. That's the perfect answer. Exactly what I was looking for. I guess I'm going to switch gears a little bit about it. Like, those are some of the memories, and I'm going to go a little bit into your past and kind of go like, what set you up to do this? So you're from Woodland Hills, LA area, correct?
Yes.
And you graduated from Yale. How did you decide to go to Yale from California? I know a lot of people, going to the Ivy League and they think about that, but why Yale? Why move to the East Coast? Why do all that?
Well, it was my best academic option for college, certainly. It was also my best baseball option. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I always had good grades. My parents always valued doing your best at everything that you do. My junior year of high school baseball, where the colleges recruit from, I was playing left field. I was a occasional starter on the varsity team, but really a JV player, and I hadn't hit my growth spurt yet. And playing left field, you guys know, I'm the slowest runner on any team in the world. So
Oh, I remember running behind you a couple times.
yeah, and catching up to me and high-fiving. There's not a lot of projectability for. I think I was maybe 5'7", maybe 5'9", slow runner, playing outfield, hitting 300 in high school. Like Division I baseball teams were not. Whoopsies. Division I baseball teams were not knocking at my door. So I went to a showcase at Stanford that required a minimum 3.6 or 3.8 GPA to attend. So all the Ivy Leagues recruit from there. And after the showcase, I got a call from Cornell, Yale, Dartmouth, and Harvard. And those were the only places I was recruited. So going to Yale is a pretty easy choice.
A lot of kids only have a couple choices. They have, maybe I'm going to go to local community college. Maybe I'm going to go to this local D3. You got 5 Ivy League schools knocking down your door, going, please come here. That's so cool.
They weren't all knocking down the door, but they at least called our landline because I didn't have a cell phone yet.
Was it, when you're at Yale, is it tough are you conceiving like, man, I could be a professional baseball player? When did that kind of reality hit you during your 4 years at Yale?
So I decided I was going to be a Major League Baseball player when I was 5 years old. Whether reality backed that up or not is a different scenario, right? Because obviously, if I didn't play on the varsity team in high school consistently until my senior year, reality was not backing that up. But in my mind, I was always going to do the baseball thing. So even though I went to Yale, I considered it, even while I was there, like, this is a great backup plan. This is a great education for after baseball. When it started turning into, now it looks like this is actually going to happen, and there was reality to support my baseball dreams, was my sophomore year of college. I had finally hit my growth spurt. Now I'm 6'4", soft around the edges because of that dining hall food. But I led the country in batting average and slugging percentage and broke every record in the Yale record book that didn't have to do with foot speed. So no stolen bases, no triples, but that's when scouts started noticing me. I was talking to 27 of the 30 teams. I was filling out questionnaires, doing interviews with scouts, and that's when so sophomore year is really when it started turning into a reality.
Did you leave your junior year, or did you stay and graduate until your senior year?
I left my junior year. I've done one semester online since. I wasn't going to correct you when you said Yale graduate, but I have 7/8 of a Yale degree.
Oh, are you going to get the last bit?
I'm not going to make any promises to you, Scott. I promised my parents a long time ago. But at this point in my resume, I don't know that 3 philosophy classes changes my higher ability. We'll see.
Was that going to be your major, was philosophy?
Philosophy.
There's a lot to unpack for those listening, because what you do beyond baseball is really incredible. I don't think you do need that degree, but I was just curious if that was something where you wanted that piece of paper in your office or something like that.
For a long time, I thought I'm the person that starts or finishes what I start. And I still think there's a piece of me that will go back eventually, even and maybe especially if I don't need it and it doesn't matter, because I've finished everything else I've ever started. But in the short term, I have a little girl at home. I'm not going to drag her to Connecticut for 6 months. It's not going to be cheap to finish that degree, even just for one semester. We'll see.
So you told me something really interesting, and I still remember this 2 years later from when you played in Jacksonville, and that was the story of when you came up with the Red Sox. And it's a team of humongous personalities that 15 years or so later, everybody knows David Ortiz and Dustin Pedroia and all those guys. Manny Ramirez I think, was on that team as well. And you're a Yale guy, so you are not kind of in that. It's a slightly different team than the idiots of 04, but it's still a few years later where a lot of those 04 guys are still there. You're not an idiot. You're an Ivy League student. And what was that like to be? I mean, I guess even in the minor leagues, and Ivy League guys don't come across too often. An Ivy League graduate or close to graduate, 7th, 8th graduate. As you guys know this very well, baseball clubhouses are not necessarily Ivy League institutions. We'll put it that way.
Troy's nostrils are flaring so big right now.
Because I am one of those idiots.
I am always very careful as to not use terminology like that. I don't think it's very nice. And I think there's a lot of people that have intelligences other than the traditional education that don't make them idiots. So I don't love that terminology. I know that there was probably another adjective involved there, like lovable or.
Well, that was what they were known as. They were self-appointed idiots. I'm not calling them idiots. I think.
Yeah, no, I get it. So there's things you have to learn as someone that's different, right? In any situation, if you want to blend in, make friends, I think there's something to be said for an emotional intelligence and a social intelligence, that if you don't exhibit some camaraderie or you don't go out of your way to make friends and find common ground, that you're going to be isolated. And I think especially towards the end of my career, when I was more of a natural leader in the clubhouse, I had the experience. I had been to the big leagues. I had lived what the guys were living. I had lived what they hoped to live. I had also lived what they dreaded. And I could share that experience. I had a much easier time being that guy than being the young rookie that was supposed to behave and go get coffee or go get the keys to the batter's box. It came more natural to me to be one of the leaders on the team than it was to be one of the rookies on the team.
And I think that's so important, because even when we played together, I stepped in that locker room, and as much as you razzed me a little bit, of course, you were the guy that I walked into the clubhouse, and it felt like a home. It felt good. you kind of took control of that whole team. And I know you've done that with multiple teams. Like there's multiple evidence of lots of guys that could say the same exact thing about you, but you've done that, and that's been one of the things that pretty much stands out to me as a player that's played with you, is that you take that leadership role very, very seriously. And I think taking that into what you've done post baseball, I think that's been awesome, that you've been able to translate that into something that, like we're talking about your keynote speakers, going and speaking at these places. Like that is a huge, huge jump, not just as a person, but like just mentally in the world, wanting to help other people. I think that is so, so cool.
Yeah, I think attitude reflects leadership, and player leadership is as important or more important as leadership from the coaching staff or the front office. Sometimes a AAA clubhouse could easily be a toxic environment because nobody wants to be there except for the newest people that just got there, right? Everybody else wants to get called to the big leagues, including the broadcaster, Scott, right? You want to get a big league job. Everybody in AAA either has been to the big leagues and wants to get back, or is trying to get there for the first time and desperately trying to leave. So if you don't intentionally create a culture of, well, we have a job to do here, and everybody's going to be better off personally and as a group if we focus on being where our feet are and let the rest of it fall where it may. You have to avoid the toxicity that can come, or the negativity, the saltiness that can come with the AAA clubhouse. And that translates to every aspect of life.
So the end of your career, and Troy, you brought up a great point there. That Reds stint happened, so you talked about earlier, and you only played in 19 other major league games. You played in more than 150 other AAA games. So is that how you approach it? Like, man, I could make an impact on the future Marlins minor league player of the year, Troy Johnston, and other guys in the Jacksonville clubhouse. He had a small piece of that, I hope, Troy. Like, is that how you approach things? I might not make it back to the majors, but maybe I could help someone get there or stay there so they don't come back here to this level.
Honestly, my approach was, no matter where I am, add, don't subtract, right? Like, be a thermostat. If you set the temperature in the room where it's comfortable and where everyone can be the best version of themselves, then I'm going to also be the best version of myself. But if you set the temperature where it's too hot or it's too cold, or you're withdrawing from the vibes, or you're, I was a young guy in an atmosphere that wasn't conducive to my success. I never wanted to repeat that for someone else. So I think, Troy, you remember I razzed you maybe like the first or second day only.
Mm-hmm.
And then from then on, like don't get too comfortable, but okay, let's get comfortable. And I want you to be your best, because if you're your best, you're going to help me be my best right back. Our team is going to be better. It's going to be more fun. Winning is contagious. Like, it benefits everyone in the room, for the guys that have been there and done that to support the new guys.
Well, and I'm just so happy that I hope you don't tell too many people nowadays, but that I'm your favorite locker mate you've ever had. Closing in on, what is it? Hold on. Let's see. 12, closing in on almost 16 seasons? And
Yeah.
I'm your favorite locker mate. It's crazy. We only spent about a month and a half together, but
Self-appointed too.
Yes, of course, self-appointed. I gotta have something to my name. Ryan Lavarnway's favorite locker mate. I'm gonna put it above my locker anywhere I go.
Was there ever a point with you where I needed to tape off where the end of your space started and my space took over? Or if I didn't have to do that, then you're automatically in the top 50% of locker mates.
Perfect. Because I was gonna. No, there was no tape. I remember a couple shoes creeping into mine, and I'm like, I can't fit into those. Those are like size 15. I can't fit into those shoes. But yes, I remember.
Was I man spreading into your space?
But again, it was just the same thing. Be comfortable, but don't be too comfortable. I'm over here. I still remember that game, sitting on deck. I had a perfect view of I think you hit 2 home runs. It was a day game in Jacksonville, and you went oppo twice. Was that same game, or was it just 1 home run?
I don't know. That sounds familiar. I like to hit homers to right.
I think it was too.
That short. But I remember
I could always hit it. Was the running and the other stuff that had some troubles.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. I was doing my research, and I came across your website. First
How
off,
recently? We got a facelift recently.
amazingly built. I need to know how you did it because I'm very interested in learning how to build websites. That was awesome how it's set up, the
Thank you.
workability, how you transition through different stuff. I'm going to ask this question really, really early because I'm going to follow it up with another question. Do you take a bad picture? Because
First
every
of
picture
all,
I have seen has been spot on. It's been stoic, or it's been, oh, I'm happy, I'm smiling. It's, I'm just doing my thing. I have not seen a bad picture.
you're very flattering. First of all, if you're listening and you want to check out my website, it's ryanlavarnway.com. It's pretty simple if you know how to spell my last name. Secondly, Troy, you know that the pictures that we use for the website are cherry picked best of the best. You're not going to put your B minus photos up there as your advertisements.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you do take a bad picture, and maybe one day I want to see something like because I've only seen good pictures, Ryan. I've only
I don't
seen
know.
good.
I don't know if you're planning to use this video for this.
You can
I,
you can text me separately, then I can make a reaction about it.
I can find some bad photos if you want. There's one I love this photo because it's my daughter's first time in ballet class, and it's until she's 2 years old, the parent has to go with her. So I'm in ballet. I wore my tights. But I mean, can we fix it? It's super cute if you're looking at her. But Ryan Lavarnway's back is sponsored by the letter C right now.
All right, I've been proven wrong. See, you answered my question. Perfect.
Great investigative reporting.
Yeah, great. Okay, so I'm gonna go. I'm sorry, that was awesome. I'm gonna go back to my question. So you have a bunch of when I was looking through your website, you have a bunch of you have your hands in a lot of different things. First thing that stood out to me was your children's book. I want to know a little bit more about your children's book. How you came to think of something like this? Was it having a daughter yourself? Was it that you've always wanted to do something like this? And tell me a little bit about the book.
So first of all, thank you for asking that because I'm really proud of how the book turned out. It started when I played for Team Israel in the World Baseball Classic the first time. It was a life-changing experience for me. Short story, I grew up in a house with no religion. I always felt like I was missing a larger community outside of the home and off the baseball field. Like, where do I belong? And playing for Team Israel helped me find that. So I ended up following a documentary they made about the team around and doing Q&As. And people in the audience were like, listen, this story is so powerful and you can speak. You don't need the film. So then I started speaking about this story of finding my identity and finding my community to adult audiences around the country. And that's how I got into speaking in the first place. And then my rabbi actually encouraged me to turn it into a kid's book. I wrote the first version of it, and coming from a story to adult audiences, there was a lot of intricacies. There's a lot of deeper meaning. And when I tried to turn it into a kid's book, being unfamiliar with the medium, it was wrong. So when I submitted it, I got a lot of no thank yous, and sometimes there was not a thank you attached. So I rewrote it a second time, submitted it, heard a lot of no's again, and then I shelved it for over a year until I had my daughter. And when I was reading her children's books, I familiarized with the medium. I gravitated towards a couple specific books that I read over and over. And then I was like, oh, well, what I wrote is nothing like these two that I like. So I rewrote it to try to be like the books that I like. And I'm really proud of the third version of how it finally turned out and what's finally published.
Who did you publish through, if you don't mind me asking?
I ended up self-publishing. And the fact that you can't tell that is a great sign because I created an entity to publish it through. It's so if you're looking for the book, it's called Baseball and Belonging. You can find it on Amazon. I'm really proud of it, and I've been getting a great response from people. That it means a lot to people, and it means a lot to me when someone that I don't know finds the book, finds a lot of meaning in it, and then writes me a really nice thank you note or letter or something like that.
That is awesome. That is so cool. Well, okay, so next up on your website, children's book, like I said, stood out to me right away. I was like, this is awesome. Next thing, you have a couple different things. We talked about the keynote speaker, but you also run a large philanthropy part of your page I want to know a little bit of what you do with that when you giving back to the community and a lot of different stuff. It looked like you did Habitat for Humanity and a couple other organizations. Tell me a little bit about that and how, post baseball, either, this has been something you've done, even before baseball, before anything like that, or if it's been more of like a post baseball, I'm really hoping to give that back to the community. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I started doing a lot of community service in 2016. Me and my wife started really valuing giving back to the community, and I did over 100 hours of volunteer work with Habitat for Humanity over one off season, to the point where I got a blue helmet. It's like an award you get when you're not a rookie volunteer anymore, and you could lead the other volunteers because you know what you're doing. But I love what Habitat for Humanity is all about. And then that coincided with me signing with the Pittsburgh Pirates soon after. I think it was 2 years after that. And they try to perpetuate the legacy of Roberto Clemente. So I ended up doing over 100 hours of community service during the season that year, visiting children's museums, visiting patients at the hospital, doing signings, doing whatever in the community, even to the point where they awarded me the Pirates Community Commitment Participation Award. But that's one of the reasons I loved playing for the Pirates organization so much, because that helped me grow as a person, helped me grow as a man, and understand the impact you can have in your community and in the larger global community. So it's something that I value. It's something I encourage, and I think it's important. I think you get a lot out of it. That's not why you do it, but you get a lot out of it also.
It's so cool. That's seriously walking through the website, looking at all the little stuff that you have your hand in. Like, a lot of people on the surface do not know that. And that's one of the reasons I ask these questions, is because you really kind of have to go to ryanlavarnway.com to really see the full story, or you of course have to ask questions and be in this kind of scenario where you're asking in-depth questions on kind of how you got to these spots.
I got
No, I'll slide you a 20 for that nice advertisement later.
I got something for you, Ryan. So, end of 2022, I think you could still play when you were with us. And I remember you telling me, I won't go into the specifics, but you were meeting with people about what's my next step if I don't play. So, how difficult was that decision to step away from the game and decide I'm going to get into podcasting? I'm going to write my own children's book. I'm going to be a keynote speaker. And were there other options, coaching or front office work, being a catcher? Those are oftentimes highly sought after people for coaching roles or front office roles, because you understand the game Troy, on a deeper level than maybe other positions on the field.
Troy was thinking bad words about you right there, Scott. I could see it in his face.
First base is the easiest position according to Moneyball.
Whoa! I was an outfielder at one point.
That's true.
In answer to your question, Scott, I was offered playing jobs in 2023 by multiple teams. I was also offered minor league manager jobs by multiple teams. And for 15 years while I was playing, the scariest question was, what are you going to do after baseball? Because I had never wanted to do anything else from the time I was 5 years old. The reason I retired was because I had a daughter, and I wanted to let her sleep in her crib every night and go to daycare with her cousins and see the family and live in the support system. So for me, I had a reason to walk away, even though I could still play. And based on how my career was going, I most likely would have found myself in the big leagues for 12 to 15 days in 2023, right? That's just the way it was going. But the sacrifices that I had done my entire career that never felt like sacrifices before, now didn't feel worth it anymore. I have a niece and a nephew that I didn't want to miss their birthday. I didn't want to be away from my family or to make them travel with me. So having a reason to walk away made it a lot easier. And then honestly, the transition was very difficult mentally and emotionally. I think I went through a version of a midlife crisis. I think everybody does. I think there's a part of you that dies, even if you're going towards something, right? I think I made the transition relatively successfully as far as professionally, but there's internal struggles that people can see that everybody goes with. You have to relearn how to be in your marriage with your spouse when your identity is changing. You have to change the way you see yourself in the world. Being a baseball player isn't who you are, but if it's what you have done for 30 years, then there's a big part of you that goes with it. So I think the more baseball players that I've seen being open and honest about that, it's going to help the next guys that come after us. But it's a big change mentally.
How important is it then to, because it's so much of your identity, you still get to be around the game, playing for Team Israel. You talked about your religion, how important that is to you. I'd imagine that is significant that you at least got to walk away playing for Team Israel. And also being a broadcaster with the Rockies, you get to be around the game still quite a bit.
I think that helped me. I love being at a baseball stadium, even if I'm not playing. And I'm lucky enough that I got to live out my dream to its fullest extent. There's nothing in the game, minus maybe making a big league all-star team, that I wanted to do that I didn't. I won a World Series, played in the World Baseball Classic, Olympics, minor league all-star teams, championships. Even though I felt like I could still play physically, I had gotten it all out of me at least. So that helps. I think I have a lot of friends that played in the minor leagues that didn't get to live it all, that can't go to a baseball game for 10, 15 years after they retire because there's a bitterness within them still. So I'm so grateful that I got to get it all out, and that I still love and have an appreciation for the game. But it's about trying new things. The thing that's helped me figure out what I want to do next is sampling a lot of things. And there's a book called Work Identity that I felt very seen by, and I recommend it to anybody making the transition. If you want to figure out what you're going to be passionate about next, you have to decide, and you have to try a few new things to figure out what you're going to decide on.
I like that. That's awesome. I love it. All right. So we have a short amount of time left. Scott, do you have any other questions before we do our game?
This is your time. This is your time.
Oh, this is my time. Is your brain ready for all of these flights for a game?
Sure.
All right. So I have two different games for you. The first one is called Alone on the Base Pass. So this one is a little bit of a spinoff of kind of the Deserted Island game, right? So I want you to pick an essential item if you were stranded on a baseball field for a month. So pick 4 essential items: first base, second, third, and home. 4 essential items that you would take with you on this baseball field.
Snacks, for sure. A blow up mattress. I'm meeting my essential needs: tent and a blanket.
Okay, so we got 3. You got one more.
Blanket, so I'm warm.
Blanket.
Where am I? In Jacksonville? Like, where am I?
Yeah. How about let's be in Fenway Stadium. You're stuck on the field in Fenway Stadium. You can't go.
You've never been to Fenway Park?
I've never been to Fenway Park. I haven't even been to Boston.
Yeah, it could be cold in Fenway. So sleeping bag, tent, snacks, and maybe a stove. I don't know.
All right.
That's very practical. I know it's not very fun.
Practical. I wish you said something like a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, that's your generation.
Too busy. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want me to Nintendo 64?
I'll just stare at the green monster.
Everywhere, every single ball hit the green monster. You just pick out, count them. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go to my next one. This one is called Plate Appearance. So we will be keeping a running tally with all of our guests throughout the season. As of right now, our one of our guests, he's leading it with first and last right now. He has 0 runs. The way that the game is played. So we are going to ask you 10 questions. Question number 1 is worth a single. Question number 2 is worth a double. Question number 3 is worth a triple. Then we're going to go back and start it again. Question number 4 is going to be worth a single. I'll tell you essentially what they're worth, but you're trying to score as many runs as possible. These are relatively well-known questions. It's not a multiple choice. It is more of a trivia game. So the max points you can get is essentially 10 runs. If you get all these questions right, you can get 10 runs. But I'm going to ask you a question, and you just give me your best answer. I'll tell you essentially where we're at and kind of where you're at on the field. But if you get 3 questions wrong, you're out. The game's over. right?
Okay.
Three outs, the inning's over.
Or do I have to answer every time?
You have to answer every time.
Okay.
I wish I could say pass, but that would make it way too easy.
All right, we're gonna try to not go 3 up, 3 down.
I think that you are going to have quite a bit of success with this. All right. So let's start with question number 1. Okay. Who was the 2023 NLV MVP?
Was it Acuna?
Perfect. All right. He's got a man on first. He's got a single. He's got a man on first. All right. For a double. And remember, this is just like wiffle ball. So you're just going to push him. If you hit a double, it's just going to push him to third base. He's not scoring on the double here. All right.
I'm running.
Yes, you're running.
Station to station.
Okay. What is the least used color of all MLB teams? Least used.
I want to say brown because it's just the Padres.
Dude. Yes.
That's
All right. We
impressive.
got runner on second and third.
So,
All right.
so history of my uniform knowledge. When I played for Buck Showalter on the Orioles 2015, I was very much the 25th man on a 25-man roster. But in order to help me feel like I was an important part of the team, he would talk to me every day, and he would shoot me trivia. So I'll shoot you trivia right back in the middle right now. How many teams wear pinstripes, whether in any of their alternate uniforms?
I'm going to say 4.
13.
Automatic effect. 11.
Oh, I was close. Can you name the 11?
I can, but we don't have time for that. Let's keep going.
Okay. All right. So runner on second and third, no outs. Let's see right here. So this is for a triple. Who is the only player to play for all 4 original expansion franchises and only those franchises?
Oh boy. Well, I only got 3 triples in 15 years, so the odds of me getting this one. The expansion franchises, you said the original ones.
Yeah, the original ones. What is it? It is.
Give the hint. So that was Montreal.
Yeah, Montreal. Was it Houston as well? Montreal, Houston, Rangers, and Athletics, I believe. I believe those are the first 4.
No Montreal. Angels, Rangers, Mets, and Astros.
There you go.
Oh, Nolan Ryan.
Dude.
That's amazing.
There's a triple. That is incredible. All
That's
right.
career triple.
He's got 2 runs with a runner on third. All right, 2 runs with a runner on third.
Good thing I asked what the teams were.
All right, so I will go back for a single right here. Who was the 2024 minor league top prospect? Or who is the 2024?
Holiday.
And he scores another run. He's got 3 runs in and a runner on first. I think I should have made these tougher.
Let's go, kid. Well, it helps that I worked in the media last year.
This is good for Colorado Rockies fans. You're getting great information this means.
Great information. Okay, so runner on first, no outs. You got 2 runs in. Which player holds the record for the most MVPs?
It's probably way back in the day. Mickey Mantle.
No, Barry Bonds. All right, first out. All right,
Mickey Mantle's top 5, right?
Has to be, yes. Okay, so, this might be hard, might not. Let's see. Oh, that's a triple. Okay, so for a triple.
Wait, are we on double? We're on triple again?
Yeah, you're on triple again. So you got a runner on first, 1 out. 2 runs are in.
3 runs are in.
3 runs are in. 3 runs are in. Okay,
what's the record for how many runs scored, by the way?
0.
Oh, so we're good.
Yeah, you are the record holder.
Okay, of the 16 franchises of the modern 2-league era, which one has never won more than 100 games during a regular season?
Oh boy. Never won 100?
Mm-hmm.
I want to say the Orioles.
It is the Chicago White Sox.
Okay.
All right. Let's go. So you were back to a triple. So we got 3 runs in.
That was the triple. Now we're on give me an easy
Triple. Now we're back to the singles again. Now we're back to the singles.
2 outs, man on first.
2 outs, man on first. Who are two of the 2024 MLB Hall of Fame inductees? Pretty recent news.
Oh yeah, Todd Helton, obviously.
Mhm.
Adrian Beltre,
Perfect. Can you name the other two?
Jim Leland,
Yep.
and I know it. I was just watching the video. Joe Mauer. Do I get an
There it
extra?
is.
Do I get an extra hit there?
Yeah. I'll give you an extra, like you got caught in a pickle, but you still stayed at second. You tried to go to
Base
third,
base
went
runner.
back to second. All right, first and second, 2 outs. Let's see. Okay, which National League team for a double, so we can score a run here, which National League team has the most World Series championships?
The San Francisco Giants.
Hmm. They were number
Oh, the
two.
Cardinals.
Yeah, there's
The
the
Cardinals!
Cardinals. They
Oh,
were number
man.
2. All right. Wow. Okay, I am so impressed with your trivia knowledge. That was incredible.
I knew that one. I got it
know
wrong, but I knew it.
I know.
Bummer. I'm too competitive to not want to keep going. It's all right.
Okay, here, I'll give you a home run question just for fun. Just for fun. Okay. Where is Scott's birth state?
Massachusetts.
Close. New
Big
York.
rock.
New York.
Mm-hmm.
That's not baseball trivia.
No, but that's my home run question. Is it's going to be questions about Scott and I.
Okay.
So
Well,
for those of you,
now
for the
future guests know to check out your Wikipedia page before they get on.
yeah, exactly right.
Hey Ryan, thank you. This is awesome. Really appreciate you making time. I know you're super busy. It really is great to catch up.
Yeah,
Honestly,
good spending time with you boys.
I had so much fun. You have some awesome, awesome. First off, your baseball career was amazing, and then your post baseball career is almost equally as impressive. Like everything that you've talked about has just been so intriguing. No matter what you do, I know you're going to have nothing but success for the rest of your career, the rest of your life, and of course, having a daughter and having a wife and doing it all at the same time. You know, you're a man of many talents. Most
Thank
interesting
you.
man
Well,
in the world, some may say.
it's very helpful to have such a supportive wife that allows me to pursue these different things. So shout out to Jamie.
I love it. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for hanging with us for the day. I really appreciate it. Scott, you got our outro for us?
That is Ryan Lavarnway. Check him out, ryanlavarnway.com. Ryan, what's the plug for your book again? I know I've seen it on Amazon. I have to hit the buy button because I have 2 young kids and that's on my in my cart. So I have to do that later today.
Yeah, the book is called Baseball and Belonging. The other things I'm doing right now is motivational speaking. I talk about mindset, perseverance, and leadership.
And on your podcast, where could one find that as well?
Podcast is on all major podcast platforms. We're in season 3 right now. It's called Finding the Way with Ryan Lavarnway.
Well, that was Ryan Lavarnway. Troy, that was awesome. There's so much going on with his life, and appreciate him giving us so much of his time. And if you're a Rockies fan, he's on their pre-post show, which is really cool. He's involved so much in the Denver community. That's where he's made his home. But just his story in baseball, and no pun intended, because he told us about his children's book, is really, really cool.
Yeah, not only did I actually texted him right after I found out about it. I'm like, Ryan, I need you to sign my children's book and give it back to me because I'm going to keep it as a keepsake. And he said, just the fact that he's going above and beyond for the children's book blew my mind.
He's a dad. That's where it comes from.
Yes, exactly. And I think it was that's so cool. And it's so something I would have never even thought of, but he is such a great talker. And like I said, such a great, just genuine human being. I couldn't thank him enough for being on the show with us.
He has a lot to still give to the game of baseball if he ever does want to get. I know he's at the broadcasting stuff now, but he played so long and as a catcher and somebody that intelligence level, I think he's got more to give to the game if it's something he ends up wanting to do at some point. to work for a team or at some capacity for the sport, in addition to just being a broadcaster. But anyway, this was our first episode, so thank you guys for listening. If you like what you heard, we are a fledgling podcast. I wanted to get that word in there. I love it. We are a brand new podcast, so please rate and review us. That's really going to help us grow and get our name out there. And we are excited for our next episode. We're going to be bi-weekly to start off. So 2 weeks from now, we'll have Marlins broadcaster Kyle Seeloff, who is also awesome and known for his celebration videos, in addition to some awesome calls, and in addition to being a really super nice guy. He'll join us, but that's on the docket, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks again. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And this has been the Turn 2 podcast with Scott and Troy.
See you, dudes.
And that's the ball game. Thanks for listening to this episode of Turn 2 Podcast with Scott and Troy. A huge thanks to Ken Babby, Harold Craw, Linda McNabb, Noel Blaha, Matt Goodrow, David Ratz, Elian Bay, and the rest of the Jumbo Shrimp staff for their continued support.